And yeah, please feel free to join. Haribol.
So yeah, start Jai Radha Madhava.
Can I just speak? Hold it? It might be easier for me. Or you'll see how things go. Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. So while we're still getting set up, it's common tradition to sing a bhajan called Jai Radha Madhava. So we're going to sing that right now. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Shodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you all so much for being here. You could be doing anything on a Saturday evening, but you chose to come to the temple today. So I'm really grateful for that because this is my first time doing any sort of discourse like this. And so I'm really thankful to all of you. And I'm feeling a bit nervous. I'm feeling a bit anxious, a bit nervous. But with your encouragement, blessings, I think I'll be able to do my best. So without any further ado, let's get started. Okay? So today I will be speaking about Lord Krishna. And everything that I've learned about Lord Krishna, I've learned from reading Srila Prabhupada's books. And in one of Srila Prabhupada's books, next slide. In one of Srila Prabhupada's books called the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is written that the word guna means quality. The qualities of Krishna are transcendentally situated and are unlimited in quantity. All of the spiritual qualities are full of transcendental bliss. And so, next slide please. And so the important thing that I'd like to highlight here is Lord Krishna has unlimited qualities in unlimited quantities. And of all of his various qualities, what I'd like to focus on today is his love. More specifically, how Lord Krishna expresses his love through his actions in how he protects and cares and maintains his devotees. But before we dive into Lord Krishna's pastimes and before I explain how Lord Krishna showcases his love, I'd like to ask all of you, if you could explain what love is in one word, what would it be? In one word, if you could describe love.
Service.
All right. Anyone? Yes? Sacrifice, that's a good one. Yes? Anyone else wants to try? Yes? Care, that's a good one. Maybe, yes? Affection. You also said unconditional? Okay. Those are all really good words. Next slide, please. So, I also, when I think about love, I also think about many of the words that we discussed. So affection, selflessness, care, and attention. And Lord Krishna's love embodies all of these qualities also. Just as you and I may feel love for each other or for someone, Lord Krishna also feels love for his devotees. So today let's explore Lord Krishna's love and how he shares that love with the Pandavas. So before we continue forward, I'd like to ask, does everybody here know who the Pandavas are? Yes? Can someone say all the names of the Pandavas? Raise your hand so we can give you the microphone. Yudhishthir, yes?
The elder one, Bhim,
Mm-hmm.
and Arjun,
Mm-hmm.
Nakul, Sahadev.
Yes, thank you. And yes, so we have Yudhishthir Maharaj, Bhima. So Yudhishthir Maharaj is the eldest of the Pandavas. Then we have Bhima, then Arjuna, and then Nakul and Sahadev. And their wife is Draupadi. And so they're known as the Pandavas, and their cousins are called the Kauravas, and they're headed by a person named Duryodhana. I'm sure you're familiar with this, but just for the sake of completeness, I'll also just briefly explain that. So the Pandavas are the sons of Pandu, and Duryodhana's father is Dhritarashtra. And Dhritarashtra is the eldest son, and Pandu was his younger brother. And so naturally, the Dhritarashtra should have become king, and then his children should have become kings after his time was up. But because of certain reasons, Dhritarashtra couldn't see, and so he couldn't become the king. And so Pandu became the king, and because he was the king, his children would ascend to the throne faster than the Kauravas. And Duryodhana hated that. So since they were children, they would engage in the Duryodhana and the Kauravas, they would subject the Pandavas through all kinds of turmoil, and they would cause them a lot of trouble. They would purposely try to harm them, try to kill them, try to hurt them. And in the Mahabharata, there's a certain section that describes probably one of the most horrible thing that the Kauravas do to the Pandavas, and that happens during the dice game. So the dice game happens because Duryodhana wanted to take away all of the Pandavas' resources. And so he schemed this plan along with his uncle Shakuni to rig the game in the favor of the Kauravas, so that no matter what the Pandavas would wager, the die would always fall in favor of the Kauravas. And so as and Shakuni played for Duryodhana, and so Shakuni was playing against Yudhishthira Maharaj. And Shakuni is a very expert dice game person. And so as they were playing, Yudhishthira Maharaj lost everything. They lost he wagered their weapons, they lost their weapons, all of their other resources, he wagered that, they lost all of that also. And Yudhishthira Maharaj, even because of the dice game, they even lost themselves. And they didn't have anything else to wager. And Yudhishthira, he thought of wagering Draupadi. So he wagered her and he lost her also. So Draupadi was elsewhere while all of this was happening inside of a gaming arena. And so Dushashan, one of Duryodhana's brothers, he brought Draupadi by her hair into the assembly. And it's very horrible for something like this to happen, and he started to pull on her cloth to try to disrobe her. And at that moment, Draupadi would ask everybody in the assembly, please help me, please help me. She reached out to her husbands, they couldn't help her. Bhishma, Dev, Dronacharya, all these very senior and respectable persons were also in the assembly. Even they could not help her. And in her dire and desperate need for preserving her dignity, she just called out to Krishna. And Lord Krishna wasn't in the assembly where this was happening. He was actually in Dwarka. But Lord Krishna, he provided Draupadi with an inexhaustible amount of cloth, so that no matter how much Dushashan pulled on her cloth, it would not be removed completely. And so that's how he saved Draupadi. And so what does this show about Krishna's love? So Krishna does not abandon his devotees, especially in their most vulnerable moments. And although Lord Krishna was not present in that assembly, he was in Dwarka, he was still able to protect her. And his love for the Pandavas and making sure that they're cared for and that they're safe is not bound by any sort of distance or physical boundaries. So that's how Lord Krishna displayed his love here, by protecting Draupadi and preserving her dignity. So moving on, after Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas lost everything, they were sent to exile. Does anybody know how many years of exile the Pandavas had to undergo or experience? Close. Yes, so 12 years. 12 years. So they were in exile for 12 years. 11 years they had to live in the forest, and 1 year they had to live incognito, meaning no one could recognize who they were. So in the first 11 years while they were living in the forest, and Duryodhana, although that they lost everything, he took away everything, he still wanted to subject the Pandavas through more trouble. And so he would scheme of ways to try to trouble them. And there's this one sage by the name of Durvasa Muni, and he's known for one thing, and that's his temper. So he has a very short fuse. Even the slightest, most insignificant inconvenience one may do to him, he will get mad. And his curses are very unforgivable. Like they're very strong. And so Duryodhana schemed of this plan. So he told Durvasa Muni, hey, the Pandavas are in the forest, and they love receiving guests, and if you go there, they'll serve you a nice feast. And so Durvasa Muni, he didn't go by himself. He took all of his entourage. He took everyone, all of his followers. He took them to where the Pandavas were in the forest, and he told Yudhishthira Maharaj, okay, we're here now. We're going to go take a bath, and by the time we come back, we expect a sumptuous feast. And the Pandavas, they received a very special vessel called the Akshay Patra, which would provide an inexhaustible amount of food as long as Draupadi didn't eat for that day. But because of certain reasons, Draupadi had already eaten that day. And so when Durvasa Muni left to go take his bath, the Pandavas were in a fix. They're like, oh my gosh, what should we do? We have to feed all of these people, but we've already eaten, and now this pot won't produce any more food because Draupadi had also eaten. And so they were thinking about this, and Krishna could sense that something was troubling them, so he came. And Krishna, he asked Draupadi, I'm really hungry, can I have something to eat? And then Draupadi, she would tell Krishna, there's nothing at home, there's nothing, because we ate everything and this pot wouldn't produce anything else now because I had eaten. But Krishna was like, okay, just bring me the pot, let me see what's left. And so Krishna found that there were a couple of small grains, some small foodstuffs that was still stuck in the pot. And so Krishna took that. He took those small grains and he was completely satisfied. And miraculously, Durvasa Muni and all of his followers, they became very full. They became very full. After their bath, they noticed that they were so full and they couldn't eat any more food. And because they were in this condition, they were thinking to themselves, oh my gosh, the Pandavas, they're so virtuous that if you ask them anything, they will for sure fulfill that. So they were thinking to themselves, by the time, like Yudhishthira Maharaj and everybody else might have provided this large feast, and now if we go there and say that we can't eat anymore, they're going to take offense for this. And so they were very nervous, and so they fled. They just ran. They went away, and this is how Krishna and so Krishna caused Durvasa Muni and all of his followers to not be able to eat any more food. And so this is how Krishna saved the Pandavas in this situation. So Krishna, not only, he protected them by, he protected them. And yeah, and so next. So after the Pandavas finished their 12 years of exile, they started to prepare for war. And so Duryodhana and Arjuna both went to Lord Krishna for Lord Krishna's help. And can anyone tell me what Arjuna asked Krishna and what Duryodhana asked from Krishna? Mike. Army, okay. For Krishna, okay. So I'll just repeat what you said. So Duryodhana and Arjuna both approached Lord Krishna, and Duryodhana wanted Lord Krishna's army. Lord Krishna had this army called the Narayana Sena, and they were unconquerable. They were very powerful, valiant fighters, and Duryodhana wanted that. So he got that. Arjuna, he just wanted his friend. Arjuna was about to take part in the most important battle of his life, and he just wanted his friend to be with him. And the only condition that Krishna placed on him joining Arjuna's side was that he would not fight. So Krishna, the point that I'd like to highlight here is, so Krishna, he's also a king. He was the king of Dwarka, so he would sit on a throne. He was a very respectable, very influential person. And this person agreed to join the Pandavas, not to fight, but to act as Arjuna's chariot driver. So imagine the most influential person you know, doing something like this, to step down from such a high post and to drive. Oftentimes we see a lot of celebrities or politicians do these acts of altruism to try to show, that they're very nice people. They may go to a shelter and serve some food, or they may donate lots of money, but most of it's PR. It's just to showcase something. But Krishna, he stepped down. He stepped down from that position of a king and became Arjuna's chariot driver. And have any of you been on a plane before? Been on a plane? Yeah? How many of you have been on a plane? Have you ever been on a plane where the person behind you would keep kicking you in the back? Huh? Yeah, being kicked in the back repeatedly because they were being annoying. Or been on a bus where somebody kept pressing into your seat. So that's how Arjuna would tell Krishna which way to go. So Krishna would drive the chariot, and Arjuna would repeatedly kick Krishna on the back. He would kick him on his left side if he wanted to go left. He would kick him on his right side if he wanted to go right. And so Krishna, as I mentioned previously, he's a king. He's being kicked by his friend like this. And on top of all of this, a very useful, very valuable strategy to fight one's enemies in the battle is to kill the chariot driver, right? If you kill the chariot driver, then the chariot can't go anywhere, and then the person whom you're fighting with, can't flee, so now they have to face you. And so Krishna would also get shot by arrows. He would also get they would target him. They would target Krishna. And so he subjected himself to all of this. He subjected himself through a lot of pain as well, just for the sake of his friend. And Krishna, he would sleep after everyone would sleep, and then he would wake up before everybody would wake up, and he would personally look after all of the war preparations for that day. In this picture right here, Krishna is feeding or providing facilities for Arjuna's horses to drink water. So this is Krishna, the king, who stepped down from his position to be his chariot driver and is rendering all kinds of menial service for his friend, all out of love and affection. So Krishna's love is, he does not hesitate to serve his devotees personally, and Krishna exemplifies this through all of this. So next. So after the Kurukshetra battle happened, so at the end of the battle, nobody was left. It was just the Pandavas and maybe a handful of other people, including a person named Ashwatthama. So Ashwatthama was the son of Dronacharya, who was Arjuna's martial arts teacher. And Ashwatthama, he sided with the Kauravas, and he did this gruesome act. He killed the 5 sons of Draupadi, not while they were fighting, but while the sons were asleep. So he killed 5 boys while they were asleep. And for this, Arjuna and Krishna went after Ashwatthama to try to capture him. And in this chase, Ashwatthama released an arrow. Does anybody know, or a weapon? Does anybody know what this weapon is called? Brahmastra, yes. So the Brahmastra has this special feature where that once you draw it, it can't be withdrawn. And the only way to nullify the effects of a Brahmastra is to use another Brahmastra. And so Krishna told Arjuna to use his own Brahmastra to counteract Ashwatthama's Brahmastra. And so he used that, and then they captured Ashwatthama. And they brought him back to Draupadi, and Draupadi told Arjuna that she doesn't want Ashwatthama to die because she didn't want Ashwatthama's mother to experience the same pain that she experienced of losing her children. And so they spared Ashwatthama's life, but they cut his hair, and they took out, so Ashwatthama has a jewel in his forehead, and they took away that jewel. And because Ashwatthama is a Kshatriya, for Kshatriyas, being dishonored is sometimes worse than death. And so in one ways they killed Ashwatthama like this by depriving him of all of his beauty and basically making him lose his reputation as a fighter. But Ashwatthama didn't stop there. He was so angry with all of this that he tried one more attempt to hurt the Pandavas. So Arjuna had a son named Abhimanyu, and Abhimanyu married someone named Uttara, and inside of Uttara's womb was a little baby, and this baby's name was Parikshit Maharaj. So he was the last grandson of the Pandavas. So after the Pandavas would depart, he would become the king. And Ashwatthama didn't want that. So he released another Brahmastra at Uttara's womb. And Krishna personally went into Uttara's womb and nullified the effects of the Brahmastra. And the thing that I'd like to highlight here is Lord Krishna, he basically changed the rules, because the Brahmastra can only be nullified by another Brahmastra, but Krishna intervened and took away all the effects, and he saved Parikshit Maharaj. And so by expressing his love, so he protected the Pandavas again, and he went to the length, he went to such an extent as to even change how the Brahmastra can be nullified, and he nullified it himself. And so, next slide, please. And so if you just recap everything, so Lord Krishna, he saved Draupadi by saving her dignity, despite him not being present in the assembly of where all of this was happening, he still protected her. And his love and his care and his affection for the Pandavas and his devotees is not bound by any sort of distance. And in the case of the pastime of the Vasa Muni, Lord Krishna, he protected the Pandavas by being for them when they needed him the most. Whenever the Pandavas needed Krishna was always there for them. But in this section especially, they really needed help because there was nothing that they could do, and Krishna was there, and he arranged for something to happen so that the Pandavas would get saved. And after this, we have Krishna rendering very meaningful, loving service for his devotee, for Arjuna and the Pandavas. And so Krishna exemplifies that his love for his devotees is so great that he'll do any menial, any kind of small service, even if it means to drive the chariot or look after the horses. And in the case of Parikshit Maharaj, or in the last image, so Lord Krishna, he can even change the rules if it means that his devotees are going to be saved. And in the battle of Kurukshetra, there was many instances where Krishna would be anxiety riddled because Arjuna would say something and Krishna knew that it would be very difficult to accomplish. For instance, so Arjuna had a son named Abhimanyu, and when Abhimanyu was killed unfairly on the battle, Arjuna made a vow that he would kill the person that killed him, by the next day between certain conditions. And Krishna was like, oh my gosh, how is Arjuna going to do this? But he still arranged for something to happen so that Arjuna's vow would still be kept. And later on, that person ended up being killed. But yeah, so the point I'm trying to highlight here is Krishna will go to any lengths to protect his devotees. So I've spoken a lot about Krishna and the Pandavas and Mahabharata. And you might be wondering, what's the point of all of this? There's one question I'd like to ask all of you. So in the Mahabharata, during the battle of Kurukshetra, there was one very important conversation that happened. Does anybody know what this conversation is called? Well, my friend here, he already spoiled it, but would anybody like to say what the conversation is? Just because I put the slide there. Pretend you didn't see it. Yes? Yes, you got it. So the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So the Bhagavad Gita, yes, round of applause. Yeah, so the Bhagavad Gita is a conversation that Krishna and Arjuna have on the battlefield. And in the Bhagavad Gita, everything that I just mentioned about Krishna also explains that. He also explains, so the Bhagavad Gita is actually it's a literal representation of Krishna's love and affection for us. So although Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna to help Arjuna in his time of need, the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita are so timeless and so relevant that we can also apply it to our day-to-day lives. And just to kind of explain how the Bhagavad Gita connects to what I just mentioned previously about the Pandavas, these are some, next slide please. These are some of the verses that Krishna personally speaks on in the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe we can have a volunteer read each of the translations. Okay. Oh, would anybody like to raise their hand and we can pass the mic to you? Would you like to read? No? Okay. Yeah? Maybe we can have 4 people, 4 different volunteers.
He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare boldly that my devotee never perishes.
Okay, so just a quick pause there. So this verse that Krishna speaks about is applicable to Draupadi's, the story that I shared about Draupadi. Because Draupadi was kept in such a difficult condition, her dignity was going to perish because she was being disrobed and being insulted in such a horrible manner in front of everyone. And so Krishna himself says that, so Krishna is telling Arjuna that declare it boldly that, He'll always be there for his devotees and that they will not perish. Next translation, who would like to read? Come on.
But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have.
And so this translation, I felt it very applicable to the pastime with Durvasa Muni, because the Pandavas, they were lacking something. They were lacking food to feed Durvasa Muni and all of his followers. But Lord Krishna, he arranged for things to happen such that Durvasa Muni himself couldn't show up back to their house, and so Durvasa Muni couldn't keep his end of the deal, which was to come back and have lunch at the Pandavas' place. And so next, would you like to read?
I envy to no one, nor I am a partial to anyone. I am equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also friend to him.
Thank you. And this, so this verse, I found it very applicable to Krishna's friendship with Arjuna. So the loving exchange that he experiences with Arjuna is friendship, and we see that out of this love for Arjuna, Lord Krishna did anything and everything for Arjuna. He became his chariot driver. He would console them whenever they would lose members of their army. Lord Krishna would sit with them and pacify them. He would take care of the horses, as I mentioned before, and Krishna would also, he would look after the horses, and he did all of this out of friendship. And so Krishna himself is saying here that if someone behaves in a very friendly way towards Krishna, then Krishna will also be very friendly to them. And so in the last, who wants to lead? Okay, yes.
Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear.
And so in this, thank you. So here Krishna is telling Arjuna that he can change anything if it means to protect the devotees, right? So whatever sinful reactions to whatever karma that we might have accumulated, that we might experience, Krishna promises that he'll take away all of that if you just surrender unto him. And this is I found this to be applicable to how Krishna saved Parikshit Maharaj, because Ashwatthama released a Brahmastra at Parikshit Maharaj, and the only way to nullify that is with another Brahmastra. But Krishna himself, he himself intervened and he saved the day. So he changed how the Brahmastra could be nullified, and I felt that this last verse is applicable to that. And not yet. And so throughout this entire presentation, I was attempting to convey how merciful Lord Krishna is, how loving he is, and how he interacts and how he cares for his devotees. But what if I told you that there's somebody even more loving, even more merciful than Krishna, and even more compassionate? Would anybody like to take a guess and say who this person might be? Yes? Radharani is one of them, yes? But there's another person I'm thinking about. You want to take another guess? He dances. Would you like to guess? Another? Okay, yes? Prahlad Maharaj? No, not the person I'm looking for. Maybe one more guess before I reveal who this person is. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, yes, thank you so much. You got it. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, next slide. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's a combined expansion of Radharani and Lord Krishna. So what you said about Radharani is also correct, because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu represents Radharani's mood. And Radharani's mood is that of being very merciful, very kind, very compassionate. And Mahaprabhu especially, so I spoke about how Lord Krishna loves all of us. But Mahaprabhu, he appeared to give the most priceless and most valuable most valuable object of all, which is love for Krishna. So Krishna is always there to love us, but oftentimes we may not be ready to love Krishna. And loving Krishna, developing love for Krishna, Mahaprabhu came to give this very freely, very free of charge, you don't need to be qualified, you don't have to do anything, you just have to chant Lord Krishna's names, dance, and you'll be able to develop Krishna prema just through those simple processes. And so Mahaprabhu came specifically to give that. And for that reason, because he came to give Krishna prema, he is considered to be even more compassionate than Lord Krishna. And so next. And so that concludes all of the So Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he appeared about 500 years ago. And his purpose for appearing in this world was to, first of all, relish. He wanted to experience what Srimati Radharani experienced when serving him. So he wanted to experience that. But he also wanted to share this experience and give the taste of Krishna prema and that service attitude for Krishna to everybody. And that's the reason for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. And yeah, is there any other questions? Anybody would like to ask or raise any points of discussion?
So, my voice is a bit, but you mentioned that Krishna is never partial to anyone, right?
Yeah.
And that he has no object of envy. But then he was quite obviously taking the Pandavas' side. So wasn't he being partial?
That's a very good question. And so Krishna can be, so Krishna is love and affection, and he's like the sun, in the sense that the sun doesn't pick and choose who the sun gives sunshine to, right? The sun is freely available to anyone and everyone, but we have to go outside and receive the sun, right? If we just stay inside, we can't get mad at the sun. Why aren't you shining on me? Why aren't you giving me warmth and light? We can't do that. We can't say that. But we can make the endeavor to go out and see the sun and receive and bask in the sun. So Duryodhana, he also had ample opportunity to reciprocate and to approach Lord Krishna in a very loving way. And Duryodhana never did that. I think in the Mahabharata, Duryodhana only thought of Lord Krishna in a very favorable way, maybe only once. In the battle, Bhishma promised to kill the Pandavas with 5 special arrows. And Duryodhana and Bhishmadev said that he would keep the arrows with himself. He would give the arrows to Duryodhana, and Duryodhana would keep it with himself. And so, although the Kauravas and the Pandavas would fight during the day, at night time they would visit each other's camps, because that's how the protocol was, that after the fighting would finish for the day, they would behave very cordially with each other. And so Krishna told Arjuna to go to Duryodhana and ask for those 5 arrows, because Duryodhana promised to give Arjuna a benediction, or he promised Arjuna that he could ask him for anything and he would fulfill that. So Arjuna went to Duryodhana and asked for those 5 arrows, and Duryodhana was bound to give those arrows, so he gave the arrows to him. And so that night Duryodhana was thinking, oh, how could this happen? How did this happen? I thought it was going to work out. And he thought maybe Krishna is very, very merciful. Maybe he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he offered obeisances to Krishna. And that was the only time in the Mahabharata where Duryodhana considered Lord Krishna in a very favorable way. So coming back to your point, it's not that Lord Krishna is very partial to the Pandavas. It's just that the Pandavas and their side were there to receive him. He didn't pick the Pandavas. He didn't pick to join them. He gave the option of joining the Kauravas too. But Duryodhana he didn't want Krishna. He wanted his resources instead. And so Krishna gave him his resources. And so when it comes to Krishna, we can either ask for Krishna and all of his, we can ask him to fulfill all of our desires. We can ask Krishna for anything. And he encourages us to ask him for anything. Just in this morning's Bhagavatam class, the speaker was explaining how no matter what desire we have, we should always approach Krishna. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's this verse that goes like this: Akama sarva kamova moksha kama udaredi tivrena bhakti yogena yujeta purusham param. So it said that regardless of whether one is desirous of all things, or when someone is desirous of nothing, or someone wants liberation, one should approach Lord Krishna only. And so we can approach Lord Krishna for anything, whatever desires we have. But oftentimes we neglect Krishna as a person. He's a person at the end of the day. Yes, he can do a lot. He can, through his energies, he can fulfill our desires. But he's a person at the end of the day, and more often than not, we tend to neglect that. We don't treat Krishna as a person, but we look at Krishna as someone that we look at him as our order supplier. We have orders and we expect Lord Krishna to supply them. And so Krishna is not partial to anyone. He's ready to reciprocate with anybody who wants to turn to him. And that's what the entire Bhagavad Gita is trying to explain to us. That ultimately we have to live in this world, but Krishna is encouraging, Srila Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is here. They've come to try to teach us that we can live in this world, we have to live in this world, but we can live in this world by being conscious of our eternal relationship with Krishna. And Krishna's love is always there for us, but what's missing in this equation is that we have to give our love to Krishna. Because love it has to be mutual, it has to be given, you also have to contribute, you can't just constantly take, right? And so Krishna's never partial to anyone, but it is our responsibility, it is in our, so to say, the ball is in our court, and we have to make use of that and turn to Lord Krishna. And it's a choice that we have to make as individuals. I hope that answers your question. Are there any other questions or doubts? Yes?
So, you mentioned the example of sun. It was very beautiful that, sun is out there, and it's just that we have to make ourselves, we have to go out there and receive the sun rays, right? So, Arjuna was very fortunate to have Krishna as his cousin, brother, right? Because Krishna was his friend, brother. So, how we, in today's age, can access Krishna? And someone who wants to, know Krishna, someone who wants to get that favor of Krishna, what is the first step that you would recommend to someone like that?
So, as I mentioned previously about this wonderful personality named Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came specifically to help people develop, to help reawaken people's dormant relationship with Krishna. And so he prescribed a very easy method for this, just to chant Hare Krishna, the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So by chanting this Maha Mantra, one can recognize and cultivate and strengthen one's relationship with Krishna, but also one can learn more about the relationship with Krishna by reading spiritual books like the Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada, he painstakingly translated the Bhagavad Gita. Does anybody here know Sanskrit? Know Sanskrit or can read Devanagari? I can't read Devanagari, I don't know Hindi even. But I'm able to read the Bhagavad Gita because Srila Prabhupada, he transliterated it. So all of the Sanskrit, he wrote it in English. So I can even say the verses now because it's translated in an English-like way, so I can read it. And so Srila Prabhupada, he came here to share all of this too. So by reading books like the Bhagavad Gita, and by coming to the temple, and by associating with other like-minded individuals, one can learn about the relationship with Krishna and learn how to approach him. And I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. Yes.
All right. Any other questions, or anybody want to discuss anything else? All right. I guess. Thank you so much for being here and for giving me an opportunity to speak. If I spoke anything incorrectly or anything was incorrect or wrong, please correct me. And thank you so much for being very good listeners and for being good participants. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Abhinav Prabhu, for that wonderful discourse. It was really insightful and amazing. So, we are Bhakti Academy. We host these events every day, basically every day. So every day we have something or the other going on. The event that you just attended is called the Saturday Sadhana Circle. And the next part of this event is that we'll do some kirtan. So the kirtan will start here, right here in the temple hall. You can just turn your faces and turn towards the DT. So the doors will open 8 o'clock, and until 8 o'clock we'll do kirtan, and after 8 o'clock we'll again do some kirtan. And at the end, around 8:30, we'll distribute some prasadam. And Prabhu was talking about scriptures. If you are interested in having a look at some scriptures, we have a wonderful book table. My friend Venkatesh Prabhu, he's standing there. So you can just approach him and ask bunch of questions, and he can recommend you a book. So please try to take something with you today and start your spiritual journey. So yeah, with that, I would like to end